So recently, you had the pleasure of going to see a classic movie, a remake
Right, a remake of a classic.
of a classic movie, The Color Purple. Why don't you give us your 2 cents review on The Color Purple?
Okay, so first, let me just say the original. Okay, I'll start this way. I've never read the book. I do plan on reading the book now. I seen the original. I've seen the original. Um, it is one of my top favorites. I can cite the lines without audio. Like, it's a movie that I know, like Coming to
No.
America. Like, I know it front to back. Um, and absolutely love it. So when this one was coming out, I'm like, I have to see it. I went to go see it. Um, I have to say that it was very good. It's a completely different movie. Okay. Um, so I'm going to start with the things I liked about the movie. I liked the fact that I thought it was beautiful to see so many people of color, so many brown, black people dancing, singing all throughout the movie. Because I feel like the original, you see like the same 12 black faces, you know? But it was just so nice to see. And when I started watching it, it made me feel like I was in a play because it's a musical, basically. Like, you know. Now I never saw The Color Purple as a play, but I know they have one. But that's what I thought of. Like when I first saw it, I was like, oh wow, this is like a play. I enjoy plays. This is great. What I have to say, and it's not negative, it's just a few critiques, okay? Where at the end, I was like, whoever did this movie, did they not see the original? And then I'm like, oh, well, it was Oprah and Steven Spielberg who did the original. And I'm like, well, they should have rewatched it because I just feel like yes, people are saying they went from the book, but I feel like from the original, they swapped. There are scenes that they swapped. Like
Okay.
in the original, it went one way, and then this way they put it before the other, where it's like, well, that don't really match. There was also scenes where I felt like it was rushed, where it's like there could have been more dialogue. Like it in the original, it was layered. Like another thing where they took out certain things where it's just like I know I read a lot of reviews where it said like, you know, regarding all the trauma, they kind of masked it or kind of made it look like you had to like use your imagination or whatever, like, you know, to not trigger people. But in the original, there were scenes that I missed in this one where like when Suge comes married to Albert and Celie, right?
Okay.
They answer the door, and it's like that's like a moment where Celie and Mr. kind of stuck together.
Right.
And it was like, you know, they were
both like
in sync. Like it was like they.
It's funny because they were in sync, even getting together. Like, you know, if I remember that scene correctly, when they heard Suge approaching, even how they got
Right,
dressed, it was like
they were excited.
Right.
They're excited.
But more than just being excited, because before his excitement meant like a shoe over the head. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
It's like she was like, "Oh gosh, here comes this person."
Right.
But then it got to the point where they're both just
Right.
flowing together in excitement.
Hey, Suge, right? And they get to the door, and she says she married, and they stuck together. We got codes, like, whatever. So, but it was in this movie, they don't have that. Okay.
Hmm.
And then another piece, like, was like, when Suge is like singing to her father for him to re-embrace her. In this movie, it's like 2 lines of singing. And that song, oh, I want to tell you something. I can't sing, I know, but it is moving.
Yeah.
People want to get up out their seats.
It's a
They want to
very moving part.
cry with the
It's a very
embrace.
moving part of the movie.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of tears shed over
Right.
like
And
that scene alone.
in this one, it was just like a glance over, like,
And I think it's symbolic because I feel like, for people who do have, good relationships either with their parents or just a loved one, and things have gotten rocky over time, and just like that reconciliation, like that's meaningful.
right.
So, the fact that what you're saying in terms of not parking there to really acknowledge that part of our own lives, I think that's, you know, the way you're describing, I feel like that may have been a missed opportunity.
Right. Like that was a pivotal song. Like it would, so that I feel like even like the meal scene where you have Sealy, you have Mr. his dad, you have Suge, Grady, like you have all them at the table. It's layered. You
So,
have Sophia.
yeah.
It's a layered because there's a conversation happening. Sealy gets fed up, like, all this. And that was 2 seconds. And even the rush of
And their scene was 2 seconds?
it was very rushed. There wasn't a whole lot of dialogue. It went right to Sealy being like,
Like,
I
having
don't,
her.
right, like going towards him, then them like breaking it up. And then even like coming out of the house where, she explains how she's been feeling. Every time you
Right,
think
did she
about
curse him?
me, right? It just felt blurted out, like everything you think about is gonna crumble. Like even just you're ugly, you're poor. Like it wasn't. It just felt like, oh, let me hurry up and say this. Like you know,
Well, okay, so here's me playing devil's advocate, right? We talk a lot about this generation,
okay,
right? And how just as a society, like it's things are just different, right? What if part of the reason that those scenes did not have carry the same weight that they did in the past is because there's a realization or thought that this generation won't stomach it the same way we stomached it in the 80s. Like Twitter would be on fire.
you're poor, you're black, you're ugly.
Twitter would be
Like
on
it was
fury.
just like
Yeah, 21-year-olds like, wait a minute, say what? Can't do that. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
so maybe that's part. I'm just again, I haven't seen it.
right.
Just as an
So
idea as to maybe what the thought
um
process was.
they added new scenes, fine and dandy, whatever.
Remake.
The one thing I feel like they missed the mark on at the end, there was no purple.
There was
Like
no what?
purple. So the original it ends there. Celie and her sister come from Africa. At the end, they're together in the fields, right?
So there's no color purple.
They mention it when Suge and Celie are walking through the field, and she says, I believe it pisses God off if you walk past the color purple and you don't acknowledge it. But at the end, I feel like it's an Easter dinner. I feel like they could have CGI'd the trees with purple flowers, or the tablecloths could have been purple. people could have been wearing purple. Everybody was wearing white.
Mm.
Like even her children that came from Africa, and in the original, like they're in the colorful African garb. They're wearing white, and it's like black and white pattern. So it's just like, and they changed Adam's wife's name, but that doesn't matter. Whatever.
Adam. Who was Adam?
Her son.
Ceely's son?
Yes.
I don't remember Ceely's son.
Remember Ceely, Olivia, and Adam, and
right. They were in Africa.
Right.
Her children in Africa.
Right. And then at the end, they come back. They speak African. Here they spoke English. And the accent wasn't even strong. Like they wouldn't have known, like English wouldn't have been there. I don't know. But in the original, they are speaking African. Mama Boni. Like so, but there was no purple. Like
that part I find just to be a little disappointing.
Right.
That you don't have the visuals of it. Like it's one thing to talk about it, but it's a movie, and
right.
like that whole scene tied it all together.
Right.
You know,
so it was just like that was like editing messed up on that big piece. Also editing messed up because in the original, you know how Ceely got the pants store, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's from that point on, from that store, Ceely was wearing pants. So now you have Fantasia as Ceely in the pants store singing, and she wearing a dress. Oh, I'm sorry. Another piece I remember where I missed in the original, it was heartfelt when Mr. went to the juke joint when Harpo and Sophia were back together. And he comes drunk and he says to Sophia, like, something like, I glad you back, or like you and Harpo, whatever. Like, whatever. It was very heartfelt. Like he meant it. Long time coming. And then Sophia tells Harpo to, like, take your father home or whatever. That did not happen. He did say something to Harpo, but then he got all angry or whatever, and they started. But it's just like that piece was like, because there are people in those relationships where it's like you marry into the family, the parent or parents may not, like, y'all oil and vinegar, and then at some point it's like you hope like there's some kind of, and that didn't happen. But all in all, I would say see the movie. It's a very good movie. If you never saw the original, I'm sure you probably love it. To me, it's two different movies.
Gotcha.
It's two different movies. But like visually, like, it was good. It was good. And the dancing, it's a lot of singing. So if you don't care for musicals,
I don't know, man. West Side
I'm not saying you. I'm just saying
in general.
In general, if someone doesn't care for musicals, it's a whole lot of singing. But original still my A1 day one.
And that's generally how it goes.
And that's my 2 cents.